Whether you're a team of 1 or 1,000, Bo Digital can help make your marketing goals a reality.
Let's be honest, most of us who run our own businesses need help in the marketing category. Either you have no clue what an algorithm is or you just don't have time to mess with it, Bo can help you with that. They offer an a la carte menu of marketing services where you can take what you need. It can be your website, your socials, newsletters, or even blogs. Bo can help you take some of it off your plate and free up time for you to focus more on the things that you love. I personally use Bo Digital in my own small business, and I love them and the team that they have and the knowledge that they possess is far beyond anything that I could do on my own. If you're looking to grow your business, you have to put a bow on it. You can reach out to them on their website, bowdigital.com, or on Facebook, BOWE digital.com. I'm Kayla Keith, and this is Murdered Midwest, exclusive content from Missing Midwest. In honor of National Child Abuse Month, we are going to be looking at one of Indiana's worst cases. The torture and murder of Sylvia Likens is widely regarded by Indiana citizens as the worst crime ever committed in their state, and has been described by a senior investigator in the Indianapolis Police Department as the most sadistic case he has ever investigated in his 35 years of service. This episode will be unlocked for all of our listeners, as we feel it's important for everyone to hear. If you see something, say something. Hello.
Hey.
We're back.
We are.
With an extra guest this week.
We do have a little helper here.
Raylan was born 6 weeks early.
Yes, she was.
Which is why we missed last week. We weren't expecting her. We didn't even have a car seat. I wasn't feeling good. I went to the hospital, and they were like, yeah, you're going to have her today.
We recorded
Wednesday.
the last episodes we posted,
yeah.
we recorded on that Wednesday.
Thursday morning, I was going to work, and I told Johnny, something's not right. I don't feel good. And when we got there, they were like, yeah, you're going to have her today. We're like, oh, boy. So, yeah, we had a baby 2 weeks ago. She's the best. She's so sweet. And I feel so much better not being pregnant.
I do think it's funny that weekend, the episodes that we posted, I listened back to them, and you complained about being pregnant several times. and when those episodes
I was
aired,
not feeling good, but by the time
they heard those episodes, you weren't pregnant anymore.
Yeah, so that was weird. But,
yeah.
Well,
But thank you, everybody that reached out to us.
Yes,
and
so many
sent
prayers
kind words and pictures and just whatever. Just, good juju coming from you guys. That was appreciated
one of our
very
listeners
much.
gave us, she works at Healing Hands Spa. She gave us gave me a prenatal massage, but then she was like, well, now that you have your baby, it's just going to be a regular massage. I was like, thank you.
Yes,
I'm so excited to use that.
Thank you.
So, yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
We're doing good. Too. She's sitting in Johnny's arms right now.
She's a perfect
Hopefully she'll be quiet.
She's perfect. She'll be fine. You might hear little squeaks, but that's about it.
Do you have announcements, or are we just getting into it? I got a long case today, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wanted to kind of limit them. Just wanted to say thank you for all the love surrounding baby girl coming. Shout out to the nurses that helped us.
Yeah, Howard Community was great.
We told a couple of them about Missing Midwest, and they seemed amped about it. So maybe they'll be listening. So, guys, seriously, you were incredible. We've bragged about you to many.
That's one career, a labor and delivery nurse. Wow.
Yeah, incredible impact. Yeah. It's like, as a dad who knows nothing about anything in there and who also is just, like, amazed by the whole process, like, our nurses were so great. Like, I didn't know nothing. It was just like, these people know everything about this. Like, I trust them fully. They'd have told me to do jumping jacks the whole time, I'd have done it. Like, they were great.
They were. It was fun. Fun times.
But yeah, we apologize for not getting an exclusive episode out. Obviously, things didn't go as scheduled. So,
And so if you're listening to this is Murdered Midwest. This comes out on Friday, and it's our exclusive content. So for $10 a month, you get an extra episode on Fridays. But we're going to leave this one unlocked for all of our listeners. Like we said in the beginning, April is Child Abuse Awareness Month. And so child abuse is something that is... I don't know. Not child abuse is not near and dear to my heart, but like prevention of child abuse. Yeah. Especially being a mom and just having a newborn baby, maybe it's hormones or something, but I just cannot imagine anybody that abuses children. They are the worst of the worst. And so I wanted to just bring awareness to the month and what you can do. And just, I think that people need to be aware that it happens so often. It's probably happening to somebody that you know, or somebody that you encounter on a daily basis, or a neighbor, and you might not even know it. And so This case is, I have 23 pages of notes, so I'm going to try to go quick. I got into this one. This one's a good one. It's crazy and it's graphic, so trigger warning. But I'm going to read it all and I'm going to tell you all about it because, like I said, it's one of the worst cases of child abuse in Indiana's history. And it's pretty crazy. So you want to get started?
I want to tag on to that just a little bit. Listen, as far as the listeners to this podcast go, like, we are crime junkies. We pay attention to true crime. We know what red flags look like. I think the biggest problem with child abuse is that people see something and don't say something. It's like, oh, I don't know if that's worth talking about. Like, we don't fall into that category. Like, if you're listening, if you're involved in true crime podcasts or just by listening to them, like, we know how to spot red flags. So we're going to talk about a lot of horrific things today, red flags that you should be aware to, because we know what to do. When we see something, we say something. Yeah,
and crime junkies, I think, especially people that are into true crime, they know, it's better to report it and it be nothing than to not report it and it be something. So,
and we always say someone knows something. Like in child abuse, like, a lot of times, a lot of people know something. They just don't know it's significant.
Exactly. And so, there's a lot of red flags in this case that, and there's some people in here that could have stopped this. A lot of people that could have stopped this. And it's obviously, it's Murdered Midwest. This ends in murder. This is our crime podcast. So, it's a tragic story. But it's about child abuse. It's about signs, speaking up, saying something. So, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to try not to sound like I'm reading it, but like I said, it's 23 pages of just instant after instance of people that could have stopped it and didn't, and just these terrible things and terrible people. And I just think it's important to know that just because it's somebody that you talk to, on Sundays at church, does not mean that they're not a terrible person, and you should be aware. One of the best decisions I've ever made for myself is something I never thought I would do. You want to know my secret? Hiring a cleaning company. Like, who does that? I never thought I would say that I'm going to have my house clean for me. But in this season of life, with young kids and sports and work and side hustles, I had to decide how I wanted to spend my free time, and cleaning was not on that list. Stanley Cleaning Company has given me my free time back. They come once a month and they sweep and mop my entire house and clean my bathrooms for me. And let me tell you, it is my favorite day of the month. Coming home to a sparkling clean house and knowing that I just saved 3+ hours of my time to spend with my kids is such a mental health game changer for me. It doesn't matter who from their team comes. They leave my house shining. And the best part is it's affordable. Christine offers an a la carte menu. You can do a general or a deep cleaning, just a sweep and a mop. You can do once a month or every week, a spring cleaning or a pre-party clean. She even has a postpartum mom clean that happens while you're in the hospital having your baby, and I can attest to that. It is amazing. Give them a call today for a free quote, and I promise it will be the best self-care you can imagine. You can find them on Facebook at Stanley Cleaning Company, or you can give her a call or a text at 765-860-3606. So, we are talking about Sylvia Marie Likens. She was born January 3rd, 1949, and she died on October 26, 1965. She was the third of 5 children, and she was born to carnival workers. Her mom and dad were in the carnival. Lester Likens and his wife Elizabeth. And she was born, so Sylvia was, this is just like some facts about her. She was born between 2 sets of fraternal twins. So there was Daniel and Diana, who were 2 years older than her, and then Sylvia. And then she had 1 year later, Benny and Jenny. I just thought that was interesting. 2 sets of twins, a baby, and 2 sets of another set of twins, which I just had a baby 2 weeks ago, and I'm glad it wasn't twins, because that sounds difficult to me. 1 baby is difficult. 2, whew.
This one's not, compared to the boys, this one's not difficult.
Says the guy who sleeps all night.
I'm holding her right now while we're doing a podcast. I could have done that with either of the boys.
She's sleeping.
I would have never done this with the boys.
That's true. They cried all the time. We had 1 baby with colic, and honestly, I'm shocked we had more kids after that, because he did not stop crying for a solid 7 months. Anyway, so Jenny Likens was Sylvia's younger sister, one of the twins, and she actually suffered from polio. So she had one leg that was weaker than another, and she wore a brace and walked with a limp. Her and Sylvia were really close. Sylvia kind of took Jenny, her younger sister, under her wing because of that disability, and she just, they stayed really close. Lester and Elizabeth, not the most stable of marriage. I mean, they worked at the carnival. They sold candy, beer, soda. They traveled around Indiana, all of Indiana through the summer times. So they were always moving, and they always had really bad, I mean, the carnival's not like a really good source of income, I'm assuming. So they always had financial difficulties. They had all these kids. So they liked to travel with their sons because their sons would help them setting up and tearing down and serving at the carnival. But it wasn't the safest environment for little girls. And so they often left the girls with grandparents or family friends. And so they would just like come back and like see them in between like the carnivals and stuff on the weekends. So on the weekends they stayed with relatives. Like I said, they had a grandma that would watch them, stuff like that. Sylvia was a really nice girl. They said she was really exuberant. She was friendly, confident, very pretty, very cute, had light wavy brown hair. Her friends called her Cookie. She would earn money babysitting and running errands, and she would iron, and she always gave that money to her parents to help with bills and stuff. They said she would always smiled with her mouth closed because she was missing a front tooth from wrestling with her siblings when she was younger. She loved music. She loved the Beatles. Like I said, she was really protective of her younger sister, Jenny, because of her disability. She would take Jenny skating at the local skating rink, and she would hold her hand while Jenny skated on the one foot she had, and Sylvia would help her with the other foot, by keeping her balance and stuff. So they were just really close. So she was, like I said, I think is it 15 at the time of her death, 1949 to 1965. Is that 15 or 16? Anyway, so that's Sylvia. That's the main character of the story. And then another main character that we're going to talk about is a lady. I can't even call her that, guys. She's terrifying. Her name is Gertrude Nadine. I cannot pronounce this name. It's Banizescu, I believe. I'm just going to call her Gertrude. She doesn't even deserve to figure out how to pronounce her name because she is the literal wicked stepmother. If you have we will post a picture of her. She's terrifying. She was born in Indianapolis. She was the third of 6 children, working class family. She saw when she was, it doesn't say an age. It says that she was around 10ish. She saw her dad died of a heart attack in front of her. So that's rough. But other than that, she didn't really have a significant childhood. Working class, like I said. She dropped out of high school at the age of 16 and got married to John Stephen Banizescu. She had 4 children with him. He had a really bad temper, though. John did, and he would abuse her. They remained together, though, for 10 years. So she had 4 kids with him, 10 years married in an abusive relationship. Then they got divorced. After her divorce, she married a new man. His name was Edward Guthrie. The marriage lasted 3 months before they divorced.
Wow.
And Gertrude
that's hard. I mean, I feel like that's hard to... You wouldn't even have your marriage license in the mail yet.
I know, right? I hadn't even done my paperwork yet. Like, my name is still the previous
months.
name. As soon as she divorced him, she remarried the first husband and had 2 more kids with him. I'm like, what, you just needed a break? Like, you should have just taken the 3 months to relax, I guess. Why did you get married in there? Like, it was weird.
Wow. Yeah.
Very weird. But then they got divorced a second time. So she's in 3 divorces, 2 men. I don't know what's going on over here. But she had the 2 more kids with him. So a few weeks after her 3rd divorce, Gertrude started a relationship with a 20-year-old welder named Dennis Lee Wright.
And how old is she at this time?
I don't even know. Well... She was born in you want to do math? She was born in 1928, and she had her son with the 3rd guy in May 1964.
So she's 40s, 50s. 36, you're saying?
With a 20-year-old.
Okay.
Because shortly after she married the 20-year, or started the 20, she didn't marry him.
Yeah, 36. She's 36.
Yeah, she started a relationship with him, Dennis Lee Wright, and she got pregnant with Dennis Lee Wright Jr., and so he was born in 1964. So she was 36 when her son was born, and he was 20. Okay. He was also physically abusive, and as soon as the baby was born, he left her.
Whoa.
So shortly after he left, she filed a paternity suit against him and wanted financial support for their child. He never really did anything. He sometimes sent checks, sometimes he didn't. So 1965, we're 37 years old now, right? 1928 to 1965, 37 years old. Gertrude is living alone in Indianapolis with her 7 children, Paula is 17, Stephanie is 15, John is 12, Marie is 11, Shirley is 10, James is 8, and Dennis Jr. is 1.
It's a lot of kids.
37 years old. She's 5 feet 6 inches and weighed about 100 pounds. Just tiny.
Gee whiz.
Gertrude is tiny. She looks horrifying. This is this is actually funny. Okay, this is somebody described her. You ready?
Yeah.
I would never want to be described this way. A haggard, underweight, asthmatic chain smoker suffering from clinical depression due to 3 failed marriages, a failed relationship, a recent miscarriage. In addition to, oh yeah, that's it. Sorry. Haggard, underweight, asthmatic chain smoker. Yikes.
Brutal.
I assure you what you're picturing in your head is probably what she looks like. She's terrifying. I read too far, but I said in addition to the checks that she was getting from her first husband, he was a former Indianapolis policeman. She really just relied on the financial support from those men.
Like the child support.
That's how she made money. She performed odd jobs like sewing and laundry and ironing, but most of it was from those men, but it was very sporadic. Sometimes they paid, sometimes they didn't.
Wow.
So she had 3 men sometimes sending her checks.
Wow.
She was raised in Indianapolis. Resided in Indianapolis. It was 3850 East New York Street, and her rent was $55. $55. So, how does Sylvia and Gertrude come to know each other?
That's my question.
Yes. So we've got Sylvia's background, we've got Gertrude's background. In June of 1965, Sylvia and Jenny Likens lived with their parents in Indianapolis. And on July 3rd, their mom was arrested for shoplifting. And so they were struggling with we got to get back into the circus. Not the circus, the carnival life. We got to get going on some of these shows, but she was in jail and the dad couldn't do it by himself. And he also had all these kids and he couldn't take his daughters. And so at school, Arsenal Tech High School, Jenny and Sylvia met 2 girls named Paula and Stephanie Banizescu. I'm 100% certain I'm saying that name wrong, but whatever. So they were friends with them, the girls. They were acquaintances. Well, come to find out, Lester talked to Gertrude, the girls' moms, and they came to this agreement that Gertrude was going to board the girls, let them live with her while they were on the road for $20 a week. So that was the plan. She was going to feed
just those 2 girls because they have 5 kids, right?
Yes, but they took the one
3.
older girl was moved out, and then they took the boys with them.
Yeah, she's 15, 16 at this time, right?
Yes, yeah. And so they decide that's what they're going to do. She's the same age as Paula and Stephanie, and they go to the same school. So, and they had a decent house. Gertrude was nice, whatever. So shortly after the July 4th that year, the sisters moved in to East New York Street with Gertrude and her 7 children. And her father left to go to the carnival with the other kids. And then later, when the mom got out of jail, she joined them in the carnival. With the understanding that they would be sending $20 a week back to Gertrude to watch their 2 daughters. During the initial time, when they first got there, it was fine. Sylvia and Jenny were living in the house. They didn't experience any abuse or discipline. They just, they hung out with Stephanie. They did housework. Gertrude had them help with housework around the house, but not a big deal. They attended church regularly. They went to Sunday school with all 7 of the kids and Gertrude. And everything was fine for the first about a couple weeks. However, the checks, the $20 a week checks, started to come later. They would be delayed a few days, or maybe 2 checks would come at once. This made Gertrude really mad. She would vent her frustration by beating their bare butts with a paddle.
Wow. So the kids are getting spanked.
The kids are getting spanked. Yes. They always paid, but sometimes it was late. She would say, I took care of you 2 little bitches for nothing. A whole week for nothing. And then she would get a check the next day and be fine.
15 at the time?
So
15 and younger.
15 and younger. I don't know how much younger Jenny. Oh, she was 1 year younger than Sylvia. The twins were born 1 year after Sylvia. In late August, both girls were beaten approximately 15 times on the back with the paddle because Paula, the oldest of the Gertrude's daughters, said that they ate too much food at the church supper. And so Paula beat both of them. Yeah. So it's escalating very quickly. Johnny, question for you.
Yeah.
If I was somewhere in Kokomo and it wasn't our house and it wasn't the flower shop, where would I be?
Easy. Humble home.
Yes, you're right. You guys, listen up. Humble Home is my absolute favorite place to be for so many reasons. No matter what I'm looking for, I always check Humble Home first. Clothes, shoes, toys, decor, furniture, makeup, they literally always have something that I need. They have brand name items for cheap. Their inventory is constantly changing, so it's part of my weekly routine to do a Humble Home walkthrough. You absolutely need to stop by. I promise you won't be disappointed. While it is a discount store, it's not your average discount store. It's clean, organized, and everything has its place. I get zero anxiety when I go in, unlike other discount stores. And no matter what you're shopping for, a home project, gifts, home decor, even seasonal decor, they will have it. They are open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday from noon to 5. You can follow them on Facebook at Humble Home Kokomo and watch for new items every single day. And for our Lafayette, Indiana listeners, I have exciting news. They are opening a second location in Lafayette soon. As soon as I have the details, I will let you know their opening date. Get excited. So, yes, we're escalating here. Trigger warning. I'm going to read through all of these things and tell you like what happens in the next couple of months at the Gertrude's house, but it's not good. So
she ate too much food at the church.
They
supper.
ate, well, according to one of the other kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a tattletale.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So by mid-August that year, Gertrude had begun to focus her abuse almost entirely upon Sylvia for some reason. It's been said she was motivated by jealousy because she was really pretty. She had a lot of respectability and a lot of potential. And so they think that maybe she just kind of was jealous of her.
She didn't want to see somebody else doing well.
guess, yeah. Like I said, it's mostly focused on Sylvia at this point. She started starving her, making her eat leftovers or spoiled food from the garbage cans.
Wow.
At one time, Sylvia got accused of stealing a candy bar, but she had actually paid for it, and so she made her eat her dinner out of the garbage that night. One time, Sylvia claimed that she had a boyfriend in Long Beach because they used to live in California, and Gertrude asked her, like, if you had ever done anything with a boy, and Sylvia, like, didn't know what she meant, so she was like, I mean, I guess so. Like, we went skating together, and I went to the park with him one time. And so... Gertrude said, why did you do that, Sylvia? And she's like, I don't know. And she just kind of like shrugged it off. And then several days later, Gertrude was like, you're getting round in the stomach, Sylvia. It looks like you're going to have a baby. And then she went on to tell her that like she needed to go on a diet and that she was probably pregnant from doing stuff with a boy.
Like going skating?
Going skating.
Yeah.
That's
how we got you.
And so Gertrude went ahead and told Sylvia and all the girls in the house that whenever they did something with a boy, they were sure to have a baby. It's
a terrifying way to live.
She then knocked Sylvia down and started kicking her in the genitals.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How did we go from don't skate with boys to kicking?
So Paula was the oldest daughter. She's a real treat. She was 3 months pregnant herself.
Wow.
And so she was jealous.
Skating with boys.
Yeah. She went skating with a boy. She was jealous of Sylvia as well. Her physical appearance, she's pretty, she's skinny, and you're over here, pregnant, getting fatter. So she started participating in the attack. She knocked her off a chair onto the kitchen floor and was kicking her and said, you're not fit to sit in a chair. On one occasion, as the family was eating supper, Gertrude, Paula, and a neighbor boy named Randy Gordon Lepper, they made a hot dog and they overloaded it with tons of like ketchup and mustard and spices and just all this nasty stuff, and they force-fed it to her.
What the heck?
Which made her throw up, and then they made her eat her own vomit on the floor.
Come on.
Yeah. Sylvia never fought back. The one thing she did was she started a rumor at Arsenal Tech High School that Stephanie and Paula were prostitutes, which probably wasn't good. And when, so she started that rumor, and then Stephanie was approached by a boy in proposition for sex because there was a rumor going around that she was a prostitute. And when the boy, she was like, who told you that? The boy said, Sylvia said it. And so when she got home that day, Stephanie asked Sylvia, like, did you do that? And she admitted to it and said, yes, I did. I'm sorry. So Stephanie punched her. And then Sylvia apologized, and Stephanie apologized, and they began to cry, and they hugged it out, and they were fine. However, Stephanie's boyfriend, his name was Coy Hubbard. He was 15. When he found out, he brutally attacked Sylvia. He slapped her, banged her head against the wall, and flipped her backwards on the floor.
So how many different people have beat on this girl at this point?
You just wait. It's insane.
Good grief.
That's, yeah. When Gertrude found out, she also beat her. Another occasion, Paula hit Sylvia on the face so hard that she broke her own wrist. And then she got a cast put on her wrist and then used the cast to beat her too.
Wow.
Gertrude would always accuse her of being a prostitute. And
Sylvia. She would.
Did I say what I say?
No, I mean you didn't say anything, but like she would
accuse Sylvia of being a prostitute and then just beat her for it, even though she never did that.
Skating with boys.
She would force Jenny to hit her own sister.
Oh my! Are you?
Yeah. And then if Jenny didn't, then Jenny would get beat.
That sucks.
So Coy Hubbard, Stephanie's boyfriend, asshole. Him and his friends would go over to Stephanie's house, Gertrude and Stephanie's house, and just physically beat her.
You guys bored?
With Gertrude.
What the heck?
Gertrude would let the neighborhood kids come over to beat Sylvia. She actually encouraged it. And on some occasions, she would charge 5 cents for the kids to come in to hit her and beat her. Yeah. Psycho. The boys were in, is it judo or jujitsu or whatever? They were in that together. Okay. Is that the same thing? I don't know. She would let them practice on Sylvia.
What?
Yeah. They would cut her with knives, and then they would take cigarettes and light them and burn her for fun. Like, that's what after school, Gertrude would just have cigarettes. They would sit around and smoke them, and Gertrude would let them light cigarettes. Sometimes over 100 times a day, she would get burnt by cigarettes because she had to just lay there and let boys burn her. Yeah. It's sickening.
And she didn't fight back. I mean, she would be terrified too.
I mean, yeah. I think she was just at that point.
Oh my gosh.
One day a whole bunch of boys were over and Gertrude had them burning her with cigarettes, and to entertain them, Gertrude made her strip naked and masturbate with a glass Pepsi bottle.
Gosh, what?
Yeah. Gertrude told everybody that was present, they were all gathered around in the living room, and she wanted to prove what kind of girl you are to all your classmates.
So how many weeks until her parents come back? I mean, like, was it just like...
So they were supposed to come back in November, from July 4th to November.
So this all happened...
We're in August.
In a month?
Yeah.
This has been her life for a month?
This is her life in a month, yes. She eventually forbid her from going to school. She had stolen a gym suit from school.
That girl probably looked forward to school every night.
It's seriously, like, makes me nauseous, like, hearing all this. It's horrible. Gertrude wouldn't buy her the gym uniform, and so she was going to failed gym, so she stole a gym uniform to wear to gym, and the school found out and told Gertrude that she stole it, and so Gertrude just didn't let her go back to school, and then she beat her with that day with a belt. But then while she was beating her with a belt, she switched to the evils of premarital sex before kicking her in the genitals. Like, it went from stealing a gym suit to premarital sex, which had nothing, like, she just liked to say that she was doing that. She then, so actually Stephanie jumped in during this beating and shouted, like, she doesn't do that. Like, she isn't promiscuous. Gertrude then burned all of Sylvia's fingertips off with the matches before whipping her. Yeah. She also beat Jenny that night with the same belt for no reason. But Jenny rarely got beat, but she got beat that night. They were afraid. Jenny and Sylvia were terrified. They did not notify any family members or any adults at their school about the abuse. They were afraid that it would just worsen the situation. Jenny was really torn with telling her parents about what was happening to her sister, but she was also being threatened by Gertrude that she herself would be abused and tortured if anybody ever found out. Jenny was always bullied by people too because of her polio. She couldn't walk. She had a limp and everything. Jeez. And so,
And she would, if she even alluded to Sylvia's situation, like saying that her sister was hungry or saying that her sister was hurt, she would get beat. So she just was quiet. She just didn't say anything. In July and August, Lester and Elizabeth sometimes would come back, like, to visit. Like,
You'd be like, why don't you have fingertips?
I don't know. It said whenever their travel schedule, like, let them be close to Indy, they would come back. They visited on October 5th. And they said neither girl exhibited any signs of distress or mistreatment, but they were in the presence of Gertrude and all of her kids. So they weren't going to say anything in front of Gertrude. So I don't know.
I mean, I feel, man, people are just wired differently. You know, I would just feel like as soon as I saw my dad, I'd be like,
yep,
this lady burns my fingertips.
Right? Get me out of here.
Yeah.
Like, her parents would have, they would have helped, you know, like.
You'd hope, yeah.
But when you've been that abused, I guess, I don't know, they're like you said, they were terrified. Immediately after her parents left, Gertrude, they said that she looked at Sylvia and said, what are you going to do now, Sylvia? They're gone. Horrifying, yeah.
And then you'd be filled with regret. I should have told him. I should have said something to my dad.
So now we're into September. The girls were out at a local park one day and they run into Diana, their oldest sister. Both Jenny and Sylvia told her about the abuse that they were having. And they said, you know, Sylvia's got it really bad and they're always doing these things, and she's never done these things, but they accuse her of it, blah, blah, blah. Neither sister told her where they actually lived. Diana just believed her sisters were exaggerating. She didn't do anything about it.
So sad.
She figured they were just like didn't want to be there, so they were like making things up. They encountered her again in a park, Diana again. And it was Sylvia, Jenny, and 11-year-old Marie, Gertrude's 11-year-old daughter. And Sylvia mentioned that she was hungry. And so Diana had a sandwich. And so she gave it to her. And Marie went home and told her mom.
Oh, man.
And she ended up, they put her in a scalding bath water to cleanse her of her sin, Gertrude did.
What?
And she grabbed her, Sylvia by the hair and beat her head against the bathtub because she ate a sandwich. Until she fainted. Yeah. So shortly after that, there was a neighborhood boy named Michael John Monroe who also went to Arsenal Tech High School. His dad made a report to the high school that there was a girl in the neighborhood that was living at the Gertrude's household, and that she had these like open sores all over her. And so he called the school to report the abuse. Good for him. Only person in the story that ever reported abuse. She hadn't been to school for several days, so the school nurse went to her house to check up on her. And Gertrude said she's not here, she ran away, which wasn't true. She was there, but Gertrude
also,
just lied.
Missing persons case.
Yeah. They said that she was a runaway, she was out of control, she didn't know where she was at, and the school did not investigate it any further. Yeah, that was it. Like they didn't do anything.
And again, you're 50s, 60s right now, right? 60s.
65, yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I work in a school now. If you miss 2 days in a row, we're sending somebody to your house. Or 3 days. On day 3, we send somebody to your house.
I mean, they did.
Like,
they sent somebody.
I know,
but
like,
they didn't do anything about it.
And just the way teachers operate, it's just different, you know? I mean, it's so sad.
Yeah.
I mean, and it took stuff like this, unfortunately, to get to the, you know, protocols that we have now.
Yeah.
But
well,
like,
this case itself got a lot of laws put in place too. But the neighbors that lived directly next door to Gertrude, they were a middle-aged couple named, I don't know if I should say their names and then shit talk them, but I'm going to. Raymond and Phyllis Vermillion.
There you go.
Go for it. Raymond and Phyllis, you suck. Both of them thought Gertrude was a good caregiver. However, on 2 occasions, they had been in the house. On both occasions, they witnessed Paula and Gertrude physically abusing Sylvia. They also said she always had black eyes.
Are you looking to buy or sell in 2024? Let Amber White help you find your home sweet home. Amber is a local realtor to the Kokomo and Howard County area, and when I say she knows her stuff, she knows her stuff. When we decided to move closer to family, I literally messaged Amber and told her I wanted to sell my house, and then later I want to buy this house, and she made it all happen. Buying and selling is such an overwhelming process, but Amber seriously took care of every single step and eliminated all the stress for us. Her knowledge was invaluable, and And while I say I never want to move again, I know exactly who to call if we decide to. Follow her on Facebook at Amber White, realtor/broker with Carrie Gruhl and Associates, or you can give her a call at 765-865-1118.
So you have these neighbors that have seen a little girl, 15 years old, who always has black eyes, and you've witnessed her being physically abused by Gertrude and Paula the both times that you were at their house. They also said upon their second visit, one of them said that she seemed zombified. She was meek and quiet and zombified. And
see, like one question I've had, like everything you've talked about her enduring, like makes me wonder if she's like being drugged.
They've never said anything about drugs, but I mean,
but like zombified is how I picture her.
Yeah, but they don't feed her, so she's probably
True.
just like, yeah. So she's malnourished, zombified, has 2 black eyes. You've seen her get beat.
With all this.
You've seen her get beat. They never reported it to authorities.
The neighbors didn't.
Yeah. So Raymond and Phyllis, that's ridiculous. It's one thing to suspect abuse and not report it, but to see it on multiple occasions,
effects of it all the time.
Unbelievable. So around October 1st, Diana, the older sister of Ginny and Sylvia, she figured out where they lived. So she showed up. She was like, well, maybe I should check it out, just because she found the address. And she's like, I'm going to go see if they're doing okay. They're my sisters anyway.
Sure.
She was refused entry. Gertrude was like, no, your parents have not given me permission for you to see your sisters. You need to go away. 2 weeks later, she saw Ginny at the park, not Sylvia. And she asked how Sylvia was. And Ginny told her, I can't tell you or I'll get in trouble. She still did not report anything or tell her parents. Due to the increase of the brutality, of the torture and everything, it was just getting worse. Like I said, increasing every day. Sylvia started to become incontinent, which is when you can't hold your urine. So she was just like peeing her pants. Yeah. She was denied access to a bathroom. So she she was forced to wet herself, which she would get in trouble for.
Wow.
So she was moved to the basement because she was peeing on herself. So Gertrude threw her to the basement and tied her up. She was often kept in the basement naked, rarely fed, deprived of water. She was tied to the hand railing, sometimes with her feet barely touching the ground. Gertrude started to like falsely accuse Sylvia of like making fun of her kids so she could beat her. Like she'd be like, Paula, do you know what Sylvia said about you? And then they would go beat her, even though she didn't say anything, because she could barely talk at this point.
Wow.
On one occasion, Gertrude gave a knife to Sylvia and told her to fight back. Sylvia said, I don't know how to fight back. In response, Gertrude sliced her leg open. They said that sometimes when the TV shows were on, they would stop abusing her because the kids and Gertrude would watch TV. So Sylvia liked when the TV shows were on because she would get a break. Like I said, neighborhood children were charged 5 cents a piece to see the display of her body go down to the basement, where they were able to beat her, scald her, burn her, mutilate her. She would gag her. Gertrude would gag her and bring her upstairs, and she would charge the kids 5 cents to rub salt in her wounds.
What the heck?
I know, it's evil. It's demented. Lady's. I don't understand.
So is every person that does it. The kids are demented.
That's what I'm saying. Look at all of these kids.
At no point in my life, if someone been like, hey, for 5 cents, I'll let you rub salt in this person's wounds.
Right?
At no point in my lifetime, I'm going to be like,
the neighborhood kids are doing this. And how did no parents be like, overhear the kids?
Hey, what were you doing over at the neighbor's house? Rubbing salt in that girl's wounds?
Well, all these boys, they're talking about. How nobody overhear this conversation? Be like, wait, you did what after
Seriously.
school? Like, I don't even know how this happened. On one occasion, Gertrude and her 12-year-old son, John Jr., took Dennis Jr., he was 1. They took his diaper and they forced her to eat the urine and the poop out of it. And then gave her a cup half filled with water and told her she could drink it, and then took it away from her. October 22nd, John Jr., 12-year-old John Jr., offered a bowl of soup to her. And told her she could have it, and he told her she had to eat it with her fingers, though. When she started to eat it, he just dumped it and laughed at her. Gertrude eventually let her come sleep upstairs on the condition that she didn't wet herself. that night, the first night that she came upstairs, Sylvia begged Jenny to get her a glass of water, which she did, and she had peed the bed. As a punishment, she was forced to masturbate with the Coke bottle again in front of Gertrude, all of her children, and the neighbor children.
Again, not a spectacle that I would ever want to watch.
Right. Gertrude took her to the kitchen, ordered her to strip naked, and said, "You have branded my daughters. Now I'm going to brand you." And she heated up a needle and she carved on her stomach, "I'm a prostitute and proud of it." So it scarred. Like, she had the scar that said that. When Gertrude was unable to finish the branding.
Oh my gosh. Do you see a picture of it?
Yeah, there's pictures of her stomach. Yeah. Gertrude was unable to finish it. And so she had Hobbs, which was one of, I forget his first name, one of the neighbor boys. Richard Hobbs. He was 14. He finished it for her and finished writing it out. Hobbs and 10-year-old Shirley took her to the basement after the branding, where they used an anchor bolt and they burned, they heated it up and they burned the letter S beneath her left breast. No idea why. They just did it. So a 14-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl, that's what they decided to do. Because Gertrude had to leave to go get groceries. So she gave the job to finish to the 14-year-old. Later, Gertrude told Sylvia, like, "You're never going to be able to marry because your stomach says that now. What are you going to do, Sylvia?" Like, whatever. Crying, Sylvia said, "I guess there's nothing I can do." Later that day, Gertrude had all the neighborhood kids over, and she made Sylvia show her stomach and what it said about the prostitute thing to all of the kids. And she told everybody that she went to a sex party, and that's where she got it. That was her punishment for going to a sex party. That night, Sylvia whispered to Jenny, "I know you don't want me to die, but I'm going to. I can tell it." The next day, Gertrude forced her. It's getting to the point now where, how is she alive?
Yeah. That's where I've been feeling.
So Gertrude can see this. So she forced her to write a letter, that would mislead her parents into believing that she had ran away and that all of these injuries were from her running away. The point was she was trying to frame a group of local boys for raping her and mutilating her and all this stuff. She wrote in there that she agreed to engage in sex with them, but then they started to abuse her and torture her, and that she wasn't at Gertrude's house and all of this stuff, which is just bull. Gertrude's literally making her write it. After she had written this letter, Gertrude had John Jr. and Jenny blindfold Sylvia and take her to a nearby woods and leave her there to die. That's what she was going to do. That
was the plan.
That was her plan. Yeah. After she wrote the letter, she was tied to the stair rail before they took her to the woods, and Gertrude gave her a snack of some crackers, and she said, "Give it to the dog. I don't want it." That's what Sylvia told Gertrude. Wow. Which Gertrude beat her for saying that.
Sure.
So yeah, that's what they. So the plan, that's what the plan was, to have her take her to the woods to die, which Sylvia had overheard that. And so on October 25th, she attempted to escape because she knew that they were going to leave her for dead in the woods. And so she had overheard them talking about this plan. And so she tried to run to the front door, but she was way too weak, and Gertrude caught her before she could even make it to the front door. She was given crackers, but she couldn't even she couldn't even eat them because she was so dehydrated. Gertrude force-fed her the crackers and struck her in the face with a curtain rod until the curtain rod was bent into a right angle. Yeah. Coy Hubbard, which was Stephanie's boyfriend, took the curtain rod from Gertrude and hit her again, which made her unconscious. Gertrude then drug her to the basement. Did you know the Jefferson House of Flowers has been a local Kokomo florist for almost 100 years? Our trained designers make beautiful arrangements for literally any occasion. You can send flowers for any reason. Birthdays, anniversaries, get well, congratulations. The list goes on. We make flowers for funerals, weddings, proposals, and even proms. Let's be honest. Receiving flowers, whether you're at home or at your work, it makes you feel special. You get butterflies and you feel loved, and that's what sending flowers is all about, the feeling that it creates. Call us at 765-452-8269 and let us create something special and send it out for you. Or you can stop in and see us at 4300 West, 100 North Kokomo. We always have a cooler full of flowers that are ready to go, as well as a boutique full of gifts. Shop local, support local, and send flowers. So that night, Sylvia tried to alert neighbors by screaming for help and hitting the walls of the basement. One neighbor right next door to Gertrude's house, and it doesn't say if it's Raymond and Phyllis or not. Right. We already know they were zero help, but one of them, I don't know which side it was, but they told police that she had heard commotion and identified it as coming from the basement of the house next to her, but the noise suddenly stopped at 3 a.m. and she decided not to tell police about it. Then. Yeah. Nah, never mind.
Gee whiz.
By the next morning, October 26th, Sylvia was unable to speak or even coordinate like her movements. She had been,
right.
so much beating. She couldn't even control her bodily functions. Gertrude brought her into the kitchen, propped her against a wall, and attempted to give her a donut and a glass of milk. She's probably panicking by this point. She threw her to the floor in frustration when she couldn't move the glass to her lips, and then took her back to the basement. After that, Sylvia became delirious. She was moaning and mumbling, and Paula, the sister, asked her to recite the alphabet, and she was unable to do it. She couldn't even raise her head off the ground. In response, Paula threatened to either stand her up or she would inflict a long jump upon her. I don't know what that means, but that's what it said. Let me look it up.
At this point, I'm just assuming it's all horrible.
Yeah. So. It's track and field. Long jump is what it means. Like she would jump on her, probably, I guess. Gertrude told Sylvia she had like messed herself, and she ordered her to clean it up, even though she couldn't even like coordinate movements. Right. Later that afternoon, several of the neighbor kids that had participated in the beatings and everything gathered in the basement to watch her. She was moving her arms, like jerking her arms.
Like they came to watch her die?
Yeah. They were having her name the people, and she would say like and she was trying to like say like you're Gertie, you're Ricky, you're Stephanie, they were trying to make her like recognize these people. I have no idea why. They gave her a rotten pear, and told her she had to eat it. She said that she couldn't eat it because her teeth were all loose because they'd beat her so much in the mouth. So Gertrude decided that they needed to clean her up. So she told John Jr. that they needed to, get her cleaned up because she couldn't clean up herself, even though they were trying to make her. So they brought a garden hose in and just sprayed her off with cold water. She tried to exit the basement again, but she could only crawl at this point. And so they Gertrude stomped on her head before standing there for several minutes. At 5:30 that night, Richard Hobbs went back to Gertrude's house and went right to the basement, where he slipped on the wet basement stairs and he fell. And when he fell, he saw Stephanie, and Stephanie was crying, and she was holding Sylvia's body. And he was like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? And Stephanie told her, like, I think she's dead. And so they decided to give her a warm soapy bath and dress her in new clothes. That's what Stephanie and Richard did together. They washed her up, they put her in new clothes, and they took her upstairs and put her on a mattress in one of the bedrooms. Sylvia was still alive. They thought she wasn't, but she was. And she wished for her daddy. She said, "I wish my daddy was here." And she asked if they would take her home. Stephanie said, "No, you're going to be fine." And then they realized that you
have new clothes on.
Yeah. Stephanie realized that she had stopped breathing. She attempted to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Gertrude told her to stop, that she was just faking her own death.
Wow.
She eventually died that night.
And what month is this?
October 26th.
And their parents are supposed to come back in November.
Yes. So that is the story of what happened to Sylvia. Absolutely horrific. Lots of opportunity to stop it from different people, teachers, neighbors, stuff like that. Crazy. Like, can you even imagine that?
All the kids are involved.
Yeah.
Probably like adults listen to what your kids are talking about.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through and tell you about what happened to these people here, okay?
Okay.
The people that are involved. So
they got in trouble, yes? I'm hoping.
They got in trouble, but you're not going to be happy with how. Karma, though. Karma comes back to a little bit, but not nearly enough what they deserve. So Gertrude beat her corpse, her body, with a book, yelling, "Faker, faker." However, she soon panicked when she realized she was dead. She had Richard Hobbs call the police, and she tried to, like, when the police arrived, she tried to explain it away. She gave them the letter and claimed that she had been trying, Sylvia came home and she was like this, and I've been trying to, doctor her up. She said she had rubbing alcohol out and like bandages and was trying to like fix her wounds and stuff, which she wasn't. She's the one that did it.
The book beatings.
Yeah.
That was just, the
police were like, no.
Stupid.
Yeah. So they said she was clutching a Bible, Gertrude, and said that this wasn't meant to happen. And she looked at Jenny and said, "Jenny, if you want to stay with us, we will love you like our own sister." And Jenny's over there like, "I just watched what you did to my sister." Like,
yeah, I'm next probably.
Gertrude had Jenny recite a whole bunch of crap to the police of what happened, which was not true. She got a police officer, and Jenny said, "If you get me out of here, I'll tell you everything." And the police were like, "Yeah, this girl did not just show up like this." So
I was wondering how they got all these accounts. Like Jenny, the sister, told them.
Jenny did. She was a big part of the testimony for the trial and everything. So a formal statement was provided by Jenny, which led to the immediate arrest of Gertrude, Paula, Stephanie, and John Jr. Within hours of the discovery of her body. That same day, Coy Hubbard and Richard Hobbs were also arrested and charged with the same offenses. The three oldest of Gertrude's children and Coy Hubbard were placed in the custody of a juvenile detention center because they were kids. And then the younger kids of Gertrude's and Richard Hobbs were detained by the Indianapolis Children's Guardians Home. All were held without bail, pending trial. Gertrude denied all involvement, although she did confess to knowing that the kids did kind of treat Sylvia bad. She knew about that. She said Paula did most of the damage, her oldest daughter. And Coy Hubbard, Stephanie's boyfriend, were mostly those two were to blame. But she didn't know it was as bad as it was. She did say that she did have her sleep in the basement on 3 occasions when she had wet the bed. She had no remorse. She signed a statement admitting to beating her with a belt on occasion.
Just every once in a while.
Like she literally tried to downplay it so much. There was 5 other neighborhood children who had participated in the abuse that had also been arrested, and all were charged with causing injury to a person, but they were released back into the custody of their parents because they were all like younger kids. The autopsy came back from Sylvia's body, and it was unreal. Over 150 separate wounds across her entire body, in addition to being completely malnourished. They said that the wounds varied in location, nature, severity, stages of healing, burns, bruising, muscle damage, nerve damage. Her vaginal cavity was completely swollen shut from damage. All of her fingernails were broken off. Most of the external layers of her skin on her face, breasts, neck, and her knees had been peeled off or receded because of the beatings. She had bitten through her lips during the beatings because they were so bad, like her bottom lip, and it was partially severed from her face because she had been beaten so much.
My gosh.
The official cause of death from the coroner was a hematoma, a subdural hematoma, because from her right temple when she got beat with that curtain rod. Shock, they said, from the prolonged damage to her skin, plus the malnutrition. There was like many causes of death that it could have been.
Yeah.
So they said all of these were like contributory factors. They said rigor mortis had fully developed at the time her body was discovered, indicating that she had been deceased for up to 8 hours, even though Gertrude had said that she had just died. They also noted that she had been bathed after and redressed after her death. funeral services were held for Sylvia Likens on October 29th. They said there was over 100 mourners in attendance. She had a gray casket, and they let it stay open. There is a picture of her in her coffin, and
Yes.
yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Cody,
In his eulogy, Reverend Gibson did her services, and his eulogy said, "We all have our time of passing, but we won't suffer like our little sister suffered during the days of her life." Reverend Gibson strode toward her casket before adding, "She has gone to eternity." Following the service, her casket was placed by pallbearers in a hearse and driven to Oak Hill Cemetery. There was a 14-vehicle procession, and her headstone is inscribed with the words, "Our darling daughter."
So all of this horrific abuse happened in a 3-month span
Yeah.
by somebody that wasn't even her parents.
Yeah. I'm not going to go through all of the...
How long did you say how long Gertrude got in jail?
No, I'm going to... Yeah, that's what I have left. Okay, so I am not going to go through the defense and the prosecutor and the witnesses and all of that stuff because there's tons of it. But basically... on December 30th, 1965, the Marion County Grand Jury returned first-degree murder indictments against Gertrude and 2 of her oldest children, Paula and John. And then also indicted were Richard Hobbs and Coy Hubbard. All were charged with having repeatedly beaten her. And the trial of Gertrude and her Paula and John and Richard and Coy all were tried together on April 18th, 1966.
So then they all get either a guilty or not guilty verdict together.
So, hold on now. On May 2nd and 3rd, Ginny testified against all 5 of them, stating that they had each repeatedly and extensively physically, emotionally, mentally abused her sister. She said, her sister had done nothing to provoke these assaults. Basically went through, told him everything. Like I said, I'm not going to go through. So hers was the main testimony. There was other testimony from other people, but we won't go through all of that. The defense claimed insanity for Gertrude. Obviously, she wasn't insane, but that was their defense. The trial of the 5 defendants lasted 17 days, and then on May 19th, 1966, after 8 hours, the jury panel was 8 men and 4 women. They found Gertrude guilty of first-degree murder, recommending a sentence of life imprisonment. Paula was found guilty of second-degree murder, and then Hobbs, Hubbard, and John Jr. were found guilty of manslaughter. When they returned the verdict, Gertrude and her children burst into tears and all hugged each other. Hobbs and Hubbard, they said they just kind of sat there and didn't react. On May 25th, Gertrude and Paula were formally sentenced to life imprisonment, and then the same day, Richard, Coy, and John Jr. received sentences of 2 to 21 years to be served in the Indiana Reformatory. However, this is where you're going to get mad. In September of 1970, the Indiana Supreme Court reversed the convictions of Gertrude and Paula because they said that the judge, the defense had submitted motions and the judge denied them. And so they said they were eligible for a retrial. So Paula put in a guilty, she pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter, and she was sentenced to a term of 2 to 20 years. For her role in Sylvia's death. She tried to escape twice from prison.
Classy.
Didn't make it, but she was released in 1972. So Paul was out. Paula was out in 1972. Gertrude, however, she was convicted of first-degree murder again, and she was sentenced to life in prison. Over the course of the next 14 years, Gertrude became known as a model prisoner at the Indiana Women's Prison. She worked in the sewing shop. She was known as the den mom to the younger people. She literally had the nickname Mom. She came up for parole in 1985.
She's so sweet. Why is she in here?
Right?
She brutally murdered a 15-year-old girl.
Literally.
That's why.
Literally orchestrated it, participated in it, responsible for it.
To put salt in her wounds.
Yeah.
Monster.
So 1985, she's up for parole. She has changed her name to Nadine Van Fossen, a combination of her middle name and maiden name. And she described herself as a devout Christian. When the news of Gertrude's parole spread, Indiana went into an uproar. Jenny Likens and other immediate family members protested it. There was signatures for they had different campaigns and stuff like that. They had over 40,000 signatures from citizens of Indiana saying that she should not be allowed out and that she needed to be incarcerated for the rest of her life. However, the parole board stated to the parole board that she wishes that she could undo what she did. However, she still minimized her responsibility. Like she said, I'm not sure what role I had in Sylvia's death because I was on drugs and I never really knew her.
That's what Gertrude said?
Yeah. That's what she said to the parole board. Taking in her good conduct in prison, though, they let her out on December 4th, 1985.
20 years.
She served 20 years for doing all of that, unspeakable things. So, following her 1985 release from prison, Gertrude relocated to Iowa. She never accepted responsibility for it. She always said, it was, she didn't know about the abuse, or she didn't, whatever. She blamed her actions on medication.
I imagine
we'll get there.
Imagine the holy hellfire you and I would rain down on somebody if they tripped our kid on purpose.
I know.
Let alone
she blamed it on medication for her asthma. That's what she said. She lived a kind of low-key life in Laurel, Iowa, and she died of lung cancer on June 16th, 1990 at the age of 61. After her 1972 parole, Paula assumed a new identity. She worked as a school counselor for 14 years in Conrad, Iowa, and she changed her name to conceal the truth of her history. And she got fired in 2012 when they discovered who she was. She got married and had 2 kids. She had to give up. She was pregnant, remember? She had to give up that baby for adoption while she was in jail. She named it after her mom. How sweet. The murder charges that were filed against Stephanie, the 15-year-old other daughter, were dropped after she agreed to testify for the defense. They did resubmit their case against Stephanie for a later trial, but she never got in trouble, and it never went through. It never happened. She assumed a new name, became a school teacher. She later married, had several kids. She was last known to reside in Florida. When questioned at the trial as to her motive, Stephanie said, "I'm just here in the hope that I can help anybody." And in response, her mother's attorney said, "including yourself." So, I mean, she was seriously involved in it, 15 years old.
Yeah.
She was leading the charge, too. So after Gertrude got arrested, Marie, Shirley, and James were placed in separate foster families. The surname of all 3 were legally changed to Blake after their father got custody back of them. Marie married. She died of natural causes on June 8th, 2017 at the age of 62. Dennis Wright Jr. was later adopted. He died at the age of 47. Richard Hobbs, Coy Hubbard, and John Jr. all served less than 2 years before being paroled in 1968. Richard Hobbs died of lung cancer on January 2nd, 1972 at the age of 21, less than 4 years after he was released. Coy Hubbard, he remained in Indiana and never tried to change his name. He lived a bad life. He was arrested on various different offenses all his life. He died of a heart attack in Shelbyville, Indiana on June 23rd at the age of 56. And then John Jr., he lived under the alias of John Blake. He became a pastor. He hosted counseling sessions for children of divorced parents. He issued a statement once that he acknowledged the fact that he should have been sentenced to more years in prison for his role in Sylvia's death. He died of diabetes at the age of 52.
That was the brother?
Yep. So all of them died of cancer.
Wow.
I just listed all those people. They all died. Gertrude, all of the people. Which serves them right, but let's see, where are we at? So Jenny later got married. She had a couple of children. She spent the rest of her life on anxiety medication due to the abuse that she died at the age of 54 in Beech Grove, Indiana, due to a heart attack. 14 years before her own death, Jenny saw Gertrude's obituary in the newspaper. She clipped it out and mailed it to her mom saying, "Here's some good news. Damn old Gertrude is dead."
I can't imagine the hate you would have for that person.
Elizabeth and Lester died in 1998 and 2013. In the years prior to her own death, Jenny repeatedly said, like, no blame should go to her parents. She said they had absolutely no idea, and they were doing what they thought was best for their girls. The carnival was dangerous, and they thought that putting them with Gertrude was the best thing for them.
That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah. The house at 3850 East New York Street in Indianapolis, it sat empty for a really long time, and then it has been it got bought and flipped into a women's shelter. In June 2001, they had a 6-foot tall memorial put up and dedicated to Sylvia's life in Willard Park on Washington Street, Indianapolis. And the dedication was attended by like tons of people, which Jenny and the Likens family was there. The memorial has like an inscription, and it says, "This memorial is in memory of a young child who died a tragic death. As a result, laws changed and awareness increased. This is a commitment to our children that the Indianapolis Police Department is working to make this city safe for our children." Sylvia's death is credited with the adoption of Indiana's mandated reporter law, which is a law that if a member of the public suspects child is suffering from abuse or neglect, you have a legal obligation to report it to the authorities.
Good.
Which is a great law to have. There was so many people that could have reported that. And so, yeah, that's the story of Sylvia. A lot of laws changed. A lot of things happened different because of her death. If you suspect a child is being abused or neglected, you can call the Indiana Department of Child Services Child Abuse Hotline. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Holidays, weekends, it's always open. You can report abuse. You can do it anonymously, or you can call your local police station if you see something. But if you see something, say something. It's literally a law now. You have to do it.
Again, we always say someone knows something. Like in child abuse cases, there's typically a lot of people that knew something. They might not have thought it was significant. If you see something, it's so fast to disprove it. Like if you have a hunch and you tell somebody at their school that I can tell you right now, if I saw something with one of my students, I know exactly who to talk to, and I know who they'd talk to, and we'd get to the bottom of it very quick. So there's people that you can contact. Do it. If you have any kind of worry, please do it. This podcast is a So.Will.I.Studos production. So will I.